What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel here, my name is Brandon. In today's video, we're going to be talking about why I haven't been buying all too many stocks recently. I know that may come as a surprise, as the stock market's been coming down. We're always taught to buy, but personally, I haven't been all too excited to be loading up the truck and really jumping in quite yet. We're also going to be talking about the topic of recession, definitely a little bit deeper than we have in the past few videos, because I do want to share some personal insights that I've been seeing and experiencing that I think may be valuable for you. Of course, I will just say this is just my opinion, right? I just want to share with you guys, my audience, my viewers. You guys can all formulate your own opinions, but it's really strange. The reason why I decided to do this video today was the YouTube algorithm started promoting a video from a number of months back. So a few months back, I did a video in my car. For those that remember, I just bought my home. I was coming home from getting a haircut, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw up a video as to why I was not buying stocks yet. And I went over the various reasons, like, you know, the coronavirus at the time and our economy and inflation, all sorts of stuff. And it's funny how that's just starting to get promoted again now, I guess because the stock market is dropping, and maybe that's a search term. I'm not entirely sure. But I want to give you guys an updated stance and more or less talk about a rather bold prediction, if you will, which I hate making on the channel. I hate making these publicly because they're so easy to, like, not that it really matters. I'm just sharing with you guys kind of what I think. But yeah, I'll just share with you guys kind of where I stand. I will just say, by the way, thank you to Neo for sponsoring today's video, but we are going to talk about that a little bit later. But just in getting started with this video, I'd like to make something clear, just kind of put it out there as somewhat of a disclaimer. I'm not trying to convince you or sway you or, you know, push you one way or another, especially when it comes to a decision like this, where I've been personally holding off on purchasing stocks. Not all stocks, we'll talk about that in a moment, but just in general, not buying that much. That doesn't mean that that's the right strategy for you. And if you're an investor who has been following the channel or just following, you know, good wisdom out there, maybe you're someone who just dollar cost average. Maybe you're someone who buys into the market, whether it's going up or down, and every month you buy your index funds or your stocks pretty much periodically. Well, you're already winning if that's the case. Like, that is an amazing strategy, and I think that's a strategy that's going to work very, very well for you over the years. But for me, just to recap on my investment strategy, because I invest in individual stocks, there are definitely periods of time where I go heavier into stocks, and there's periods of times where I go lighter into stocks. Like, if you went back and tracked the track record or the history of purchases that I've made over the past number of years, there will often be times where in a month, I'll make a bunch of purchases, 10, 15 purchases, and I'll load up on stocks. And then there will be periods of weeks, if not months, where the purchases are much less. Maybe just nibbling here and there, in some cases not buying whatsoever. And that's just a cause of what I'm seeing in the market, how my accounts are personally doing, how my cash is looking in those accounts. There's many factors that come in, but at the end of the day, it's more or less, am I seeing value out there, and are these stocks at a price that I want to buy them at, and do I want to pay for? I've still been buying stocks, don't get me wrong. Like, I've been nibbling on the way down, and I've been buying stocks. Possibly you could argue too early. I wouldn't argue too early because they're at prices that I'm willing to pay. But am I at a position where I want to load up the truck, load up the bus yet? I don't know if I'm in that position yet, because to give you some insight on how I see our economy and our world, I've been having some discussions with a few of my closer business friends, my YouTube friends, some of them outside of YouTube. But it's very fascinating how these business owners, at least in my circle and the ones that I've been talking to, they've really been feeling a slowdown in numbers. And I can say for my stuff, like for our channel here and for what we have going on in the background, without a doubt, numbers have been a lot slower than they have in the previous months, in the previous years. Even when comparing up to the COVID pandemic, the pandemic was actually surprisingly very, it was a big boost for YouTube because everyone was home and everyone had money to invest. So it's very counterintuitive. A lot of businesses can't say that same, but definitely the period that we're in now, it is a little bit slow. And when I say a little bit slow, these few friends that I've talked to, and I'm very grateful that they're able to share these types of insights with me, across the board, what's fascinating is that although views and interest and eyeballs are up, like if you were to go look at different trends and even like a Google Trends of what's going on and what the search topics are, the stock market right now is actually a very trending topic with the markets crashing. You have a lot of people searching and looking and absorbing. But on a consumption level, those who are buying products, those who are actually spending money, there's a very, very big divergence. In fact, the few people that I've talked to, this has been one of the biggest divergence and one of the slowest periods that we've seen as creators and as business owners in years. Like in many cases with one of the people I was talking to, since they incepted their business. And that's really fascinating how, hey, trends are up, but revenues are down, but spending is down. What this indicates to me, just looking at our personal circle, not saying that this is the case everywhere, but to me, this shows us that we are seeing a slowdown in consumer demand, like people that are willing to spend and people that are willing to go out and buy. And this is a very, very different story if you compare this back to a number of months ago, if not over the past few years. It's been a very, very strong environment for consumer demand. I'm starting to feel that. My peers are starting to feel that. I've talked about on the channel before, like for those that have been following, even on the personal side, me, my family, my wife, we've been trimming down our budget. We've been saying, hey, where can we cut down? Like maybe we got to eat out less, or maybe we got to do this, because it just feels like life is getting very expensive and things are just getting a little bit tighter out there. And if that's happening to me and our businesses, I think it's very fair to say that that's very possible that you guys out there and our economy is potentially feeling this way as well. And it is, in a sense, there's like a delayed effect, right? It makes sense that during the COVID pandemic, to me, that would have been the most logical time to say, okay, that was it. We had a great run. Economy has now taken a turn for the worse, which is normal, by the way. Like this is healthy and normal. Nothing is abnormal about a recession. So if you are fearful and worried about it, like this is just part of the cycles we go through. It's the ebbs and flows of our business cycle. You know, coming out of the COVID pandemic, it would have made a ton of sense that that is when we started a recession. But of course, we had this backing, we had the support, we had this injection and boost given by the bigger bodies in our world. And that definitely helped prop things up. In my opinion, it almost delayed and pushed back things. But sooner or later, we are going to feel the impacts of that. And the question that I wonder is now one of those times? Again, I'm just using some personal examples to say, like, we have so much economic data out there, and there's so many people projecting out what's going on in our world, people far, far smarter than myself and my peer group. But one thing that I can kind of look at is, well, what's happening in my life? Like when I'm at the grocery stores, when I'm at the gas station, what's happening in our business, and use those insights because they are very, very valuable to see what's going on in our world. I will just say that it can be very tricky at times to interpret all of the data that we have available to us. When you see the inflation numbers, when you see the job numbers, it's tricky to tell whether the economy is firing on all cylinders or if we are taking a turn for the worse. Again, I don't want to make a big, bold prediction. I don't want to, come up here and say the worst is not, the worst is yet to come. But for me, these are just some of the things that I consider as to why I haven't been buying all too many stocks. Because again, basically understanding where we stand on a macro environment, these are very important decisions for me as to what I'm going to be doing with my portfolio. I'm still been buying on the way down, just to reiterate that. I know I've said that already. Just so you guys think I'm not all cash or anything like that, no. But just a little more selective. And I want to talk about this cycle that we go through. And it's really fascinating to me how now that we're a couple months out, like the stock market's kind of come down. We've seen a lot of these stocks come down to more normal levels, not just stocks, but even assets, right? We talked on the channel a little while back about the everything bubble. And I'll see if I can link that video up if I can dig through and find it. But essentially, there are some very, very smart people out there who have been saying for time and time again that sooner or later, these assets have to come down to some more realistic and some more normal price ranges. Like it has to, sooner or later, whether that's now or whether that's later. But one of the telltale signs that we are in a bubble, or that we've been in a bubble, and that things are going to come crashing down is when you look at the amounts of speculation that we see out there. And I know that term gets thrown around a lot, speculation hype. Like we talk about it on the channel a lot, and you see it out on YouTube and everything. It's speculation hype. It almost we become numb to that. But now that we're a couple months out, is it not very clear to you guys, the same way it is to me, that there were some very significant pockets of speculation, whether that be in certain stocks, like, a GameStop or a meme stocks or the AMCs, Lightspeeds, whatever these stocks we want to look at. Maybe that's the NFT market. Maybe that's the crypto market. I'm just throwing things out there. In the moment, a lot of people will feel like, oh, well, this is just how it is. And these stocks are just going to go up and things are doing very, very well. Like it's very easy to get caught up in the moment. But now that things have come down to a bit more normal levels, it's the same, like, it's just easier to recognize, if you guys get what I'm saying. At least that's the way that I look at it. It's almost like when you look back, it's almost pretty clear that, oh yeah, those assets were overpriced. That was pretty ridiculous. But in the moment, I totally understand that it can be hard to tell. We've even talked on the channel that one of the telltale signs as well that we are coming to a top of a cycle is just the number of IPOs, right? Initial public offerings, stocks that are coming out to the market. They are going public. And we had seen, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I'll throw something up for you guys. I think we hadn't seen numbers since I believe, the tech bubble. I was going through Reddit the other day, and I also found something that I found very, very fascinating. In some of the subreddit communities, in particular, it was either the startup community or the venture capital community. Basically, these communities surrounded around businesses and generating, sorting through and getting capital from funds, from family offices, from investors. There was a post talking about, I'll see if I can pop it up for you guys, but I'll have to dig through it to find it. But it was a post talking about how the venture capital market has really, really dried up. And anybody in the space will be the first one to tell you about that if you do have people in the circle that you would talk to. But getting capital right now apparently is a very, very big struggle and very, very stingy, if you will. The post that I came across said that, I think it was a certain fund talking to some of their businesses or whatever the case was, that be prepared for the next 24 to 48 months to go through a potential very rough patch with potentially no additional money, no injections into your business, no fundraising. Like, be prepared for that. And how scary is that for a startup? Like, imagine you just had a business, like you're just starting your business and they say for the next 1-2 years, basically try not to die. Like, try to just stay afloat and don't expect that you're going to have all this money flowing around like it has been over the past number of years. Again, these are all the things that I'm personally piecing together from my personal experience to what I'm seeing out there to these different posts. These are insights that lead me to say, well, hey, maybe the worst is not behind us yet. Maybe it is. We don't know. The reality is that the business cycle or economic cycle goes through these booms and they go through these busts. And over the past decade, we have been through a tremendous boom and an amazing, amazing environment. Well, sooner or later, the tides do need to turn. And whether that's now, whether that's not, still early to say. But for me, I am almost taking a little bit of a stance, leaning that, hey, we may have the tides kind of turning. And important in this video, what I want to talk about to finish things off is how do we win as investors? Like, if this is the case, right? If this is going to happen, well, how do we win? And I will get into that after our video sponsor for today. I do just want to say thank you to Neo for sponsoring today's video. If you guys caught my last video, we talked about the Neo cashback credit card. Neo is a digital alternative to the big financial institutions out there. If you are in the market for a cashback credit card, you can get some of the highest rates available at thousands and thousands of vendors out there. The average cashback that you can get is somewhere along the lines of 5%. And with your first purchases, you can get as much as up to 15%. I personally love how this card looks. I think it's so sleek. I think it's so modern. It's the Neo Cashback MasterCard. Also, what's great about this is that you can do it all through their online portal. You can get signed up super, super easily. As I mentioned in my last video, it is actually fun to sign up for one of these things. It's not a hassle, it's not stressful. These cards are shipped out to you directly to your house in like literally less than 2 weeks. I got mine super, super fast. It comes in this super cool packaging where it just kind of bloop, pops up like that. And even though it takes 2 weeks for you to get it, immediately upon signing up, you do get access to a digital card, one that you can just download straight to your wallet. So while you're waiting, you can go out and start earning cash back basically at pretty much wherever you want to go out and spend your money at. And I think it is very important that if we are going into a recession, that you have the right tools, you have the right materials and the right cards to succeed in our world. If you are in the market for a cashback credit card, I would say look no further than the Neo card, and there are some sign-up bonuses where if you click the link down in the description below, you can absolutely go check them out. Thank you to Neo for sponsoring today's video, and again, links will all be included down in the description below. Now, in finishing today's video off, let's talk about how we should invest during a recessionary period. I'll share with you exactly what I plan to do when it comes to my stock selection and what I plan to do with my portfolio. I did in the last video, by the way, cover some tips and some best practices for what we should do on a consumer level, like as people, as humans, as individuals. What can we do on the personal finance side, saving more, job security, emergency funds, et cetera, et cetera. This is more talking about, well, how do we approach our portfolios? I think this is probably what a lot of you guys have been sticking around for. And if you have been enjoying the video, by the way, I will remind you, please don't hesitate to drop a thumbs up. I think the biggest takeaway is to understand we want to identify companies or stocks that, regardless of what's happening, are thriving and are still doing very well on a business operations level. Let's just throw share prices aside for a moment, because as we know, those fluctuate every single day, and that is very, very tied to the sentiment of the stock market. And over the short term, those could continue dropping. They could bounce back. Those are doing all sorts of crazy things. But on a business level, like how these companies are functioning, we want to be looking for companies that will continue to grow and thrive during a recessionary period. And I think it's Michael Burry who uses this term. I'm sure it's been thrown around a lot out there, but he uses the term toll booth companies, right? Try to identify toll booth companies during a recession. What he's referring to there is obviously a toll booth. No matter what's going on, like you go through the toll booth, you pay your little toll. We don't really have toll booths here. I think that's more or less a US thing, or at least I don't think we have them here in Canada. But a toll booth, it's just like cash and checks, right? It's just printing money. It's just ching, 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 no matter what is going on. Well, there are companies out there that, again, regardless of the share price, are still going to be operating like that during a recessionary period. And the obvious ones that I'll throw out would be companies like the consumer staples, the utilities. Like we've all heard that before. And I know you guys are probably, not interested in those or sick and tired of hearing about those, because I do have a couple of other great suggestions. But obviously companies like that are ones that will steadily, truck on and grow for you. The type of consumption that doesn't change, right? It's not like an Apple. I'll just throw Apple out there, which I think Michael Burry does have puts on Apple as a side point. But Apple to me is a very, very consumer dependent business. They've been doing a very good job of getting away from that with growing their services segment, a very, very smart move, whether that be through your Apple Music or iCloud or all the different offerings that they have that you're kind of just going to keep paying in the background. But at the end of the day, taking a look at where our economy is now, at least based on what I feel, comparing that to a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, let's say before the pandemic, I can see the case where a lot of consumers decide, well, hey, I'm not going to upgrade to that new iPhone. I'm not going to get the iPhone 12 or 13 or 13 Max year after year after year and pay $1,500 just because I can and because I want to, because it's out there. I can see a company like that, which is very, very tied to consumer-driven stuff, definitely experiencing a slowdown. We've seen Netflix as a company where a lot of people, I believe, are cutting down their budgets, and maybe as simple as saying, why do I have all these streaming services? I'm just going to pick one, or my favorite one. Again, a very consumer-tied service, despite being a recurring type of model, still very consumer-tied. The example that I will share with you that I think is a very, very resilient company, whether you like the company or not, is a company like Facebook, a company like Meta. And I know people just don't like Meta in general. They don't like Mark Zuckerberg, and that's okay. But Facebook is a stock that I actually recently added. So I added it in my personal TFSA. I think we also even added more to it in our portfolio challenge, the ones that we're building up for you guys. So that was one of the stocks that I had been buying, and I've been liking the price point, regardless of if it's going to drop more going forward. Because that's the thing that you have to understand, is that just because we buy a stock now, in a period where the markets are going down, in a bear market recession, the stocks can drop lower and lower and lower. And in my opinion, I think you should almost detach yourself to that, because you're never going to perfectly find the bottom, but you can find prices that you're willing to pay. And again, Facebook was just a price that I was willing to pay. That's beside the point, because we're talking more about companies that have the ability to thrive even when our world is slowing down. And Facebook, I don't care whether we're in a recession or not, the amount of users that they have on Instagram and WhatsApp and Facebook, yes, of course, people are kind of easing off that platform. But the kids that are scrolling through their Instagrams and the parents or whoever uses that stuff, that's not going to change. That's a business model. That's a device or a business that should, in theory, maintain basically all of their user base and all of their growth no matter what's going on. Now, of course, ad rates would likely drop down. Like if companies are struggling and they're feeling the struggles, they may not be advertising as much, and they may not be as enticed to go out and spend like they would if times were good. But at the end of the day, if all the users are still on these platforms, the companies don't really have any other choice as to where to market. Like, they're going to have to market their businesses, and they're not going to be going out and writing newspaper ads or doing these types of old things. There's not really any other alternative. Yes, there's TikTok, which is a growing competitor and, again, a very fair place to, run ads. But case in point is that, in my opinion, Facebook still has a very, very resilient business model, whether times are good, whether times are bad, as long as the users are using their apps, and this is where everybody is, that's where the businesses are going to market to. And again, that's just one aspect of it, right? Facebook is a company that has a very, very good balance sheet. Like, they basically operate with no debt. I think that as I'm learning more and more about the metaverse, it is more or less a buzzword at this point. It won't be in the future, but I still think that we are years and years out for that being something like very legitimate and a very big part of any business out there. But I do think we're getting there, but not quite yet. Nevertheless, they still have that door open. I just think that Facebook, despite all of the hate that this company receives, is a stock that is attractive during a time like this, simply because of the business model. Another type of company that I would think too would be companies that have, let's say, government backing, government support. If the government is a client of a company, whether that be a Lockheed Martin, whether that be a company that provides healthcare services or military devices, like whatever it is, when you have the government as one of your big clients, that is a very, very recession resilient type of customer. When they have their budget set aside, and no matter what, they're going to be putting money here, there, or whatever, that is a great hedge to what's going on in the world. The reason I'm giving these examples is not because I'm saying to go out and buy Lockheed Martin or Facebook, but I'm trying to share with you guys, like, conceptually, what types of companies should you be looking at, right? And I'll even say one of the stocks that I purchased recently was a company called Williams-Sonoma, and it was a very consumer-driven stock. And it's funny, one of you guys, like one of the subscribers, even said, like, a really good comment saying, hey, love the company, looks great, but given the state of our world, it might be a little bit early to have purchased the stock. And in hindsight, looking back, kind of forming the opinions that I have now, that subscriber may have been very, very, very right. And I'm kind of in the process of reassessing that position. Haven't cut ties with it or anything like that. I think it's doing decently well. But it's just a very interesting thought, because these consumer type companies, where I'm going to be looking to focus my money on is more of these stable and secure business models. That's just my personal opinion on it. Because again, when the stock market is dropping, all that means is that we are paying cheaper and cheaper prices for certain companies. And what we want to be identifying is those companies that, although it may not show or reflect in the share price right now, they are growing, they are prospering, and they are exceeding as a business. And during recessionary times, we're able to go in and buy these shares at cheaper and cheaper prices. It's actually a very, very exciting opportunity, as long as you have the patience, the guts, and of course, the know-how and the ability, the knowledge to be picking the right types of companies. And hopefully in this video, I've been able to kind of share with you kind of a lot. Like, we've been talking about, honestly, a lot during this discussion, but starting with my thoughts, kind of the overall macro type environment, and leading on into, well, how do we win? How do we, succeed as investors during these periods? That's just my opinion. That's how I would do it. And again, just to finish things off, if you are an investor who just does dollar cost averaging on the index, and you're just going to buy the index on the way down, on the way up, you're going to win that way too. Like, that's equally as good of a strategy, if not better, possibly even better than the strategy that I have. But I do like picking individual stocks, and I think that it is important to be very selective with the types of stocks that I do pick, which is kind of what I've been saying, honestly, on the channel for the past little while. But nevertheless, those are kind of my thoughts on today's video. And if you did enjoy them, I'd love to hear from you guys, like, down below. If you enjoyed the video, first of all, please do give this video a thumbs up. Like, that is just such a great way of giving your support. I'm filming this video very late at night again, because it's just the time. Our baby just turned 4 months literally yesterday. So she's 4 months and 1 day, and she's flipping around and she's doing all sorts of stuff and making all sorts of noises. So it's been super, super great. But this is the time that I get to film these videos. And again, I just thought it would be a good video to talk about. And I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comment section below. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Are you noticing some of the similar things that I'm noticing? Am I completely off base? Like, that's a very legitimate possibility. Who knows? I'm just sharing with you guys my opinion. I hope not to sway you guys one way or another, but just kind of give these kind of thoughts, right? These thought-provoking ideas. I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. So don't hesitate to do that. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, take a moment and subscribe. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You have to hit the bell for notifications. Apparently that's a big thing so that YouTube can notify you, shows that you're interested. And of course, as always, we do have our Investing Academy down below. We just had an amazing meet and greet for our Vancouver students, and it was just phenomenal. It was a blast, like meeting these people after 2 years. We pushed off for the COVID pandemic for so long, and our students were so excited, and it was just such an amazing time. And we're planning on doing these, as our students know, cross country. So I think we're doing Calgary next, and then Toronto. Those would be the first two. As much as we'd love to go visit the Yukon territories or wherever the case is, New Brunswick, because we have students in every single province, I think we're gonna knock off the big ones first. That just makes sense. And big ones, like just for some reason, there's a lot of students in Calgary. I don't know why, but there is. And we're gonna make our way across. So of course, that's our Investing Academy down below. Super cool community of Canadians who are learning and engaging and just investing together. Click the link down below to check it out. But as always, I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.